Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for this afternoon, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist and guest. Mr. Ramzy, thank you very much, sir, for joining us this afternoon.
A pleasure, Angie.
Thank you once again. And let me start by asking you, now we've seen the latest escalation in spite of all the resolutions and the pressure on Israel. The aggression on the Gaza Strip continues for the 176th day, still killing hundreds of people and injuring scores others. How do you see this ability by Israel to totally neglect all the resolutions passed to stop the aggression on Gaza?
Israel is enjoying the impunity that no other state on earth enjoys. This is basically what is going on. To the degree that they are coming out and they are admitting committing war crimes,
Yes.
Without caring about consequence. Know that there will be no consequence. And this is the problem. And this is where the United States of America has failed international law, the international community, the nations of all of these countries that are fully appalled by what they are seeing on a daily basis in terms of massacres, ethnic cleansing, genocide, putting a whole nation into starvation and using starvation as a weapon of war. This has, and blatantly, without worrying about consequence, this is where the United States of America has royally failed. We are not surprised that Israel would be doing it. It is fascinating that Israel does it, declares it, allows the whole world to see it, yet feels total impunity and feels 100% safe. From the leadership represented by Benjamin Netanyahu to all the way down to that soldier that is on the ground, that is committing the atrocities.
Yes.
All of these people feel totally safe and protected.
In light of the recent UN resolution that was passed with the abstention of the U.S., first time the U.S. does not veto anything related to the Israeli aggression, did this not, create some sort of pressure on Israel that their main ally is no longer, giving them the green light to continue?
No, the United States continues to give them a green light, and this is where the problem is.
Yes.
The United States abstained at the Security Council, but that abstention immediately was followed by a declaration that the resolution is not binding, which is false. The resolution, by the way, is binding.
Yes, should be.
The resolution is binding. It is false. It's a false statement by the United States of America. But why would the United States of America come out and lie and say that the resolution is not binding? That's a green light. By saying it is not binding, then the whole ceasefire is up for Israel to take it or leave it, and it will not pay a consequence if it is not binding. But it is binding. Unfortunately, the United States is telling us that despite the fact that it is binding, we are giving the green light to Israel to continue. And Israel would not continue if it didn't have a green light. So all of these resolutions that are coming out, I mean, look at what happened at the International Court of Justice. Even the resolution that came out on Thursday enjoyed a consensus of judges who this time demanded that Israel must allow the entry of food, water, electricity, medicine, by order. And also they declared that the airdrops and the sea lifts and all of these projects are not enough. All of these materials have to enter by land.
Yes.
And in quantity. So the resolution that was just issued was an excellent resolution. It also demanded for a ceasefire, by the way.
Yes.
And when you're talking about consensus, this is the whole world. The judges, the representatives of the judicial systems of the whole world agrees that Israel is committing crimes. And And now they ordered Israel to stop again, and this time in detail, and Israel has not stopped and will not be stopping. Why? Because Israel knows that if South Africa takes this up to the Security Council again, the veto is awaiting.
Yes.
Any resolution that calls on sanctions on Israel or throwing Israel out of the United Nations because it's a rogue state, or. So if Israel is totally protected by the United States, then the United States is giving Israel the green light to do whatever it fancies.
Now, with regards to diplomatic efforts, early last week, President Sisi convened with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, speaking about, the discussion reflected on the unified stance on the gravity of the situation and the urgency to prevent escalatory forces in Gaza. The President also spoke about efforts to secure an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as well as adequate humanitarian assistance for those suffering in the Strip. How do you see these main points of discussion and where to from there, Mr. Ramzy?
This has been going on for the past 6 months, and nobody is able to do anything because the whole international system is flawed. And this is what Guterres said publicly. He said that we really need to fix this international system. It is flawed. The whole UN system is flawed. When a country like the United States of America is sitting there at the Security Council, ready with a veto in order to allow for genocide to continue, then there is a very big problem with the system. There is a very big problem with the system. Certain things such as genocide, this is the highest level war crime established in international law. When it is allowed to happen, when the whole world knows that genocide is happening, not only knows, they see it. They see it because the times have changed. This may have happened in the past, but we don't know. We've never seen anything so bad. We've never seen anything this grave.
Yes.
But we don't know because at the time, mainstream media was totally controlled by government, especially in the United States and in Europe. Now, with the social media and with online media, the whole world can see what is going on.
Absolutely.
And for the first time, we're seeing this gravity happen before our eyes. We are now in our 6 months, half a year has passed, and this has not stopped. Half a year. And which is the most ridiculous notion. That when we say that the system is flawed, the system is definitely flawed. You cannot watch massacres for half a year
and
not be able to do anything about it.
Absolutely. We've also seen President Sisi warning against the repercussions, him and many other world leaders, the repercussions of the UNRWA funding cuts by certain countries. And we've seen some countries returning their funding, the latest of which being Japan. How do you see this, this step by some of the countries, first to cut funding, then to return funding, especially with UNRWA, the international community collaborates efforts to face, trials to impede UNRWA from carrying out its tasks?
Cutting funding to UNRWA is complicity in genocide, because UNRWA is the only organization that is capable of providing the basic needs of the Palestinians on the ground.
Yes.
And therefore, and not just in Gaza, but all over, in the West Bank and even in refugee camps outside of Palestine. All of those countries rushed to cut their funds over UNRWA over a ridiculous allegation that Israel made. When Israel has been trying to shut down UNRWA for the past 20 years, why does Israel want to shut down UNRWA? And the whole world knows this. The politicians, they know this, because they want to remove the services that the Palestinians are enjoying. And by doing that, they would be forcing the Palestinians into exile. This is part and parcel of genocide. So why are some countries now changing their minds and continuing the funding of UNRWA? Because they realize that legally they are responsible. Many of these governments are now recalculating how much responsibility they are willing to take on behalf of Israel. By the way, all of these resolutions that we see today are important because they do not end by time. In 50 years from today, when the United States is no longer willing to do a veto for Israel to protect it, Israel can be prosecuted.
Yes.
And all of these people who were involved in the genocide can be taken to the International Court, to the International Criminal Court, and be prosecuted on an individual level. So Israel as a state can be prosecuted in the future, and so are all of these individuals who are committing atrocities, from the person who makes the decision and gives the green light or gives the order to the soldier who actually goes ahead and commits the crime. And therefore, we are talking about, and therefore this is important because the time will change. If this administration in the United States today is willing to destroy the reputation of the United States on behalf of Israel, maybe in the future there will be an administration that's not willing to do that. But all of these countries are now worried because there are Canadians inside of Canada who are talking about taking their government officials to court. There are people inside of Europe who are talking about taking their. It's not a foreigner who is going to take them to court and to stand trial for genocide or complicity in genocide. And the thing about the international law, it's very clear. If you whitewash genocide, if you support it in any sort of way, including your PR, to cover up for it, or to defend it, or to justify it, then you are complicit. You are a partner in genocide. And you will stand before the court just like the person who committed the genocide would stand before the court. This is international law. And therefore, all of these people have to recalculate now, because this is something that is going to come in the future. A prime minister who is serving today may be pulled to court in 10 years' time in order to, on accusations of genocide or complicity in genocide or being a partner in the genocide that Israel has committed. So how far are all of these governments willing to go in order to allow Israel to continue committing this? They have to recalculate, and I think they are recalculating, and this is why we're seeing even the American administration come out and talk against the harm that is being done to the civilians, acknowledging that the price that was paid by the civilian population in Gaza was way too high and shouldn't have happened. They're acknowledging all of this in order to ease it for themselves in the future, in case they have to stand. Some Americans have tried to take Biden to court in California.
Yes.
And the Californian court said that it is viable that there is a genocide being committed. However, the court has no jurisdiction over Biden. If that wasn't the case, Biden would be standing before court, an American court today, with accusations of genocide.
Speaking about, as you said, in light of all the pressure, the Israeli Premier Netanyahu still reiterated his plan to send ground troops into the southern city of Rafah and continue their attacks. How do you see such a move or a possible incursion worsening the already catastrophic situation in the besieged strip?
The Israelis are still thinking that they may get away with ethnic cleansing. And this is where the problem is. Everybody knows, the Americans, they understand, the Europeans, they understand that invading Rafah is not going to finish Hamas. And it will achieve no military purpose. Everybody knows this. This is why the Americans are trying to discourage Israel from invading Rafah, because it's not going to achieve a military victory in any sort of way or manner. The leadership of Al-Qassam and other resistance movements are not sitting in Rafah waiting for the Israelis to come and kill them. And the whole world knows and understands this. The only thing that Israel can achieve from the invasion of Rafah, after they sent the vast majority of the population of Gaza down to the south and put them in Rafah, telling them that this is where it is safe. The only thing that Israel can achieve by attacking Rafah and attacking these the civilian population there is to move them out of Gaza, is to force them into exile. And if that happens, then it's 1948 again, repeated, deja vu. This is the second Nakba of the Palestinian people, because that's exactly what happened in 1948. The Israelis got away with it at the time. All of the Palestinians who became refugees in 1948 couldn't come back to their homes or to their land again. They are still in refugee camps until today.
Yes.
75 years have passed, and the Palestinians are still in refugee camps, and they need UNRWA to take care of them. So to do this again, Israel feels and believes that it can still get away with it. The Americans are extremely concerned about it. What is history going to be in the future? How is the Biden administration going to be seen in the history books in the future? All of these leaders, they really need to reassess. America, until today, didn't come out and clearly say no to the invasion of Rafah, or there will be any consequences if Israel invades Rafah. America is actually advising Israel not to invade Rafah. What do you do with advice? They've been advising Israel since day one.
Yes.
This is the 6th month of advice, and Israel does not heed by advice. Israel only understands consequence. They really need to understand that there would be a consequence. Otherwise, they are going to invade Rafah. Many Palestinians are going to be massacred. And the only thing that Israel can actually achieve through this is to throw them out all into the Sinai. Or of course, on board the ships that are going to come to Gaza supposedly to drop food, medicine, and supplies in order to save the starving Palestinian population. This fiasco is very clear in the head of politicians, and this is where it becomes extremely unfortunate. So allowing Israel to do this is to give them a chance to try to actually achieve their goals.
Absolutely.
And their goals are disgusting. They are against international law in very clear terms. There isn't even a doubt or a question mark on that.
And it further extends to other areas. As you said, tensions, settler violence in the occupied West Bank has also worsened following the war outbreak in Gaza. And we've also seen the situation in the West Bank escalate. Still, we're seeing more attacks on that front. And even across borders, we're seeing attacks in Lebanon, for example. We're seeing the Houthis from Yemen also attacking ships in the Red Sea in solidarity with the Palestinians. So the region, there's a lot of spillover in the region, yet still no effort is being done to contain the spillover.
And this is what Israel wants, and this is what Israel needs. What Israel needs, they cannot create a new reality on the ground without disturbing the waters. If they want to create a new reality on the ground, that is, they use genocide and ethnic cleansing to achieve a purpose. If they want to achieve that purpose and they want to get away with it, then there has to be action on all fronts. The Palestinians in the West Bank are next. If Israel gets away with ethnic cleansing in Gaza,
yes,
then what is going to stop Israel from ethnically cleansing the West Bank? That is much more important to the Israelis than Gaza.
Indeed.
The West Bank is sitting in the heart of Palestine. The West Bank is where Jerusalem, the holiest city on earth, is for the three religions. Bethlehem, the holiest city for Christians, is, etc. So the Raquel tomb and the tomb of Prophet Abraham, may God be peace upon him, these places are more important than Gaza to the Israelis. So if the Israelis get away with ethnically cleansing Gaza, then the West Bank is next. The West Bank is next, because without ethnically cleansing the West Bank, Israel will never, ever have the legitimacy and will continue to be an occupier by international law.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Ramzy. Now, on the other front, we've seen Netanyahu's office saying today talks on a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release will take place in Doha and Cairo in the coming days, and guidelines to move forward in the negotiations. This comes days after the negotiations themselves appeared stalled. How do you see, his approval, Netanyahu's approval on new talks on Gaza? Do you see any possible fruition to these talks?
Well, the Americans have been pressuring Israel to reach a deal on the prisoners. And the reason is because many of these people have an American nationality, and Biden needs to answer to his own people. Biden has been claiming that the USA has been supporting Israel fully because of the number of Americans who were taken prisoners on the 7th of October. Of course, this is a very interesting story because these people are binationals, and we all know international law. If you are an Israeli citizen, let's say you are an American citizen, but who also happens to be an Israeli citizen, inside of Israel, America has zero jurisdiction over you. What prevails is your Israeli nationality, not your American nationality, to the degree that the United States can't help you. Let's say you are in trouble and you got arrested, you are in prison, whatever, the Americans can't help you. They cannot tell the Israelis, let the American citizen out of prison, for example. Why? Because they're also an Israeli citizen, and therefore Israeli law applies to them.
Yes.
Now, this is the same for Egypt, Jordan, any country in the world. This is international law. So basically, the Americans would like to see the release of hostages, but not on the basis of a permanent ceasefire, not on the basis of a withdrawal of the Israeli army outside of Gaza, not on the basis of ending the atrocities. So why would the resistance actually exchange prisoners and then go back to slaughter? If they do that, then that is treason. Not only are they going to be killed after they do that, but also it is treason in the eyes of the Palestinian population. The only thing that could happen is for sense to prevail. Sense is, yes, we do prisoner exchange. Palestinian prisoners have to be released in return for the release of Israeli prisoners. Especially the military ones, of course, we're talking about. They are the most important in this whole deal.
Yes.
And in return, there has to be a permanent ceasefire. The Israeli troops have to withdraw outside of Gaza. The Americans way back declared that they will never accept for Israel to seize territory in Gaza. Well, Israel has already seized territory in Gaza. Israel has created the buffer zone all around Gaza that is fully under its control and that is going to be permanently under its control, apparently. And we don't see the Americans doing anything about it. So all of these statements that are coming out that are void of action are meaningless. So if the resistance is not willing to do a prisoner exchange without protecting their own people, then they will be blamed for not reaching an agreement. And just like when the peace talks collapsed under the auspices of Washington, Yasser Arafat was blamed. Yasser Arafat had absolutely nothing to do with it. Israel sabotaged the peace talks. Yet, at the time, Clinton came out and declared that it was Arafat's fault. And all politicians, all of those who were engaged, I was engaged at the time, we all knew that this is not true. This is a blatant lie. So this idea of lying on behalf of Israel, of protecting Israel, of allowing Israel to get away with murder, of allowing Israel to achieve goals that are totally against international law and humanity is not new. But what is new is the size of the atrocities. And what is new is if America has already accepted the idea of creating another 1948, another Nakba, and gave the green light for ethnic cleansing in Gaza, that is disastrous. And then the problem of the international community should really be today with America, not with Israel, that is getting away with murder. Israel has never been a very nice state. Israel has always been a state of apartheid. Israel has always been racist. Israel has always killed civilians. There is nothing new. We're not surprised by how terrible Israel is. But it's ridiculous how terrible the United States is being in this whole affair.
Indeed. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. I've run out of time. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our journalist and our guest for this afternoon. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.